Welcome to From the Honeycomb podcast. I am your host, Katerina. Join me as we explore stories of fearless female entrepreneurs and inspiring women in architecture, construction, engineering, and beyond. Each episode is a captivating blend of topics that resonate with the soul. Whether you're here to learn more about entrepreneurship, architecture, holistic living, or just need a little extra inspiration, you've come to the right place. So sit back, relax, and let the buzz of positive energy spark your curiosity. This week on the Women in Architecture series, I'm joined by Liz Sydnor, an architect, designer, writer, and advocate who brings nearly a decade of experience to her thoughtful and multidisciplinary approach to design. Liz is passionate about supporting the next generation of women in architecture and currently serves on the Phoenix Metro Women in Architecture Committee. Through her studio, Sydnor Design, she explores the intersection of storytelling and design, and she's currently writing a book to empower women entering the field with encouragement, insight, and lived experience. Liz, welcome back to From the Honeycomb podcast.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
It's exciting to have you back almost, I think, a year later, exactly to the time your episode came out last summer in 2024.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think this is really nice to kind of, see where I was then and kind of where I am right now. So thank you.
Yes. And as you know, we begin every episode by sharing something that we are grateful for in the present moment. So what are you grateful for?
I am grateful, I think, to have met you, and we really have had a great relationship, even from afar, supporting each other. So I've really appreciated that. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. And I have to say, I'm likewise grateful for you as well. And I want to share with listeners, we worked together at the beginning of this year. You created my website, and working experience with you, shout out to you, give a huge plug to you. If you're looking for rebranding and website design, Liz is your girl. It was flawless from start to finish. I felt so heard, taken care of. You got what I was thinking. It was just seamless. You're so organized. The meeting notes, I loved everything because
my gosh, thank you.
You're welcome. That's what I strive to provide for my clients. And so when it's not reciprocated, but when I get to be the client and I get to have that 5-star service, it was I knew it would get done. I knew everything would it was just amazing. So I'm really grateful. Yeah. So I'm grateful likewise that we connected, and gosh, I wish I remembered. I think somehow through Instagram, I must have found you or something like that. So yeah, it's been a really wonderful connection to have you, be a part of my entrepreneurship journey and to help me grow my business and elevate it this year. It was an incredible collaboration.
Thank you. Yeah, that's so nice for you to say. And, that's why I love working with other architects and other creatives, I think, because you were such a dream client as well. And, because you really understand the value in hiring a professional and the time that it takes and what you're investing. And so it was just such a joy to work with you. So thank you for that. That was super nice.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Of course. Hi, it's me, Katerina. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to share with you something that can change the trajectory of your life. If you are ready to start your own architecture firm but are feeling overwhelmed by where to begin, I understand, because I felt the same way when I first embarked on my entrepreneurial journey. This is why I have created the ebook, The Mindful Blueprint for Launching Your Architecture Firm. This comprehensive workbook contains everything I wish I had known before starting my own firm. From building a solid business plan to creating your brand, The Mindful Blueprint for Launching Your Architecture Firm offers a step-by-step guide tailored to your timeline, whether you're launching your firm today, next month, or in a few years. Dive into essential topics like financial planning, organization strategies, and how to secure your first client, all in one convenient resource. That's right, you don't have to spend hours researching. I have done that for you so you can focus on building your business. And that's not all. With your purchase, you'll also receive an exclusive meditation for business owners, mindfulness tips, a crystal guide for support, and gratitude exercises to help you stay focused and positive throughout your journey. Turn your dream of having your own firm into a reality with the Mindful Blueprint for Launching Your Architecture Firm. Click on the link in the show notes to get your copy today. Now, let's dive into the episode. So previously, when you were on the podcast, you shared your journey about becoming an architect. So I'll provide a link in the show notes for listeners. If you're interested about Liz's story and how she became an architect, you can definitely listen to last year's episode. But this year, we're kind of coming on to just catch up, talk about what's going on in your life, how business is another year later, because last year you were about 1 year into business.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, you're into second year, so you're going on third. So how has this last year been for you?
This last year has been good. I think it's, definitely different from the first year of business. In the first year, I was really testing things and kind of making the business, like making the thing exist first and kind of worrying about improvements later, which is hard for me because I'm a perfectionist and I want to nail everything down right away. But really what I learned the first year in business is just get the thing going, and you don't have to perfect every bit of it. And I think someone told me, like, you have to think of it as, this is like a year one problem, and that's a year two problem, that's a year five problem. And so I've really learned that creating your own business and having it be successful really takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of hard work. And so, year two, I think now that I've tested some of these things, like the services I provide, how I'm providing those services, the types of clients I serve, how to make things more efficient, now is, I think, the more reflective part kicking in and the honing in on what to focus on. Like, what do I want to keep moving forward and what do I want to let go of a little bit more?
I like that you're thinking about what do you want to let go of too, because I think, as a business owner, you take on so many roles, so many hats in the business. And like it can become so overwhelming and like figuring out what doesn't serve you, what can you delegate, what can you let go is such a mature approach to business because you recognize like, yeah, there are some things that like fill my cup and I can do and bring me joy. And then, what are some things you can let go of? And I like that you mentioned the part where it's like that's a first year problem and that's a second year problem and third and fourth. And like that's so true. Like sometimes you're just like, I don't know how to deal with this. And like, I'm just going to have to figure it out or I'll have to figure this out at a later time. And so, which I think is kind of what came up with, like, for example, my website. Starting out, I was like, I have no budget. I have to put together a website. I will handle this once like it makes sense with my business. It's like a, couple of years down the line or a couple months, like once I have the money to invest in it and then to do it properly. And then I did do it properly with you. And now I'm so obsessed with it, with my website, which I think I'll have to provide a link in the show notes so people can check it out. But it's like, yeah, when you should be taking on certain things. And I knew at the beginning my upfront costs, like I knew what I wanted to do. And then in the time that I needed to do it, like that's just a quick example, to think of, especially because you were associated with that investment. So yeah, I like that you've realized that there are different problems during the different years of business.
Definitely. And also just having your own business, you can always improve something. You can always be working on literally anything. So it's just kind of figuring out what you need to focus on, like what deserves your attention right now or what needs your attention right now, and just taking it day by day, because I get caught in that loop a lot if I want to solve all the problems all at once immediately. And the reality is, maybe you could, but your health will suffer, you will burn out. And so you have to be really careful about that. So it's finding a balance of how much am I pushing myself, but also how much do I need to like rein it in a bit so I'm taking care of myself at the same time.
No, absolutely. And that's, I think, so hard too, because you work from home, but you were looking at a working space. Was that right?
Yeah. So I used to work at like a co-working space. It's called Industrious, which was amazing. And it was a great place to go at that time. And an opportunity came up to work at a local architecture firm in town. So I actually rent a desk from them, which has been amazing because I can use, the printer, Wi-Fi. I have access to a beautiful conference room. So if, I need to meet with clients, and that's just been a perfect situation for me right now. And I also feel like I kind of have some coworkers now a little bit, which is nice. And working for yourself, it's like, man, I miss talking to to people. Yeah. So that's been another huge bonus for me personally.
Oh, that's so cool. That is so cool. And that's amazing that you were able to find an architecture firm that allows you to do that because It's like I've thought about the co-working spaces as well. And the problem for me is I'm a social butterfly. And so I wouldn't get work done. Like I think it's best that I am at home alone with no one to talk to. But there is that like you miss that presence of someone, or when you have an issue and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't figure this out. I'm stuck, or like, oh, I just need another pair of eyes. And it's like, so what do you do then? So I think that's important too, because coming back to what you're talking about, like even burnout is, and with work, like you could keep going. There's always something to do. There's always something to improve. And like, you're a perfectionist and like you want things to be, and also like you want to be proud of what you're putting out there because your name is associated with it. And that can put a lot of pressure on a business owner. And so then all of a sudden, if you start burning out, which seems to be happening. It's interesting. A lot of the conversations I've been having lately with friends or with like people I've been hearing is like we had 2020, everybody was at home. And then slowly the social stuff kind of, started ramping up. And now 5 years later, here we are. And like so many people are burning out. And I think a lot of it has to do with also our digital presence as far as like, now we take on like Zoom calls, and like you can take a Zoom call wherever you are. And when you have your own business and you have to handle everything, it's like, when do you stop? Like when do you are like, okay, today I'm done. And like, I'm done and I'm not going to open my email up. But it's so hard because you see the message come through or something and like it's your responsibility. It's tough. It's a hard balance for sure.
Yes. And I think it's, at least for me, it's pretty all encompassing. Like it's hard for me to completely shut it off, even when the weekend comes or the evenings come around. And it's hard because sometimes I don't mind it. Like I'm, feeling really energized about what I'm working on. And, I want to accomplish that task. But at the same time, it can be a slippery slope as far as how often that's happening. But I think it's definitely a real reality, especially if it's just you working.
No, it is. It is. And it's hard. And two, I think, once you start getting more and more work and more projects, there becomes that time of like, when do I, excuse me, like I told you at the beginning of the call, I was choking on a pretzel. I can still like kind of feel it. So, excuse me.
So real.
It is. It is. I was trying to like snack right before too. It's like, because oh man, I'm like on this pretzel craze, very random. Sorry, total tangent. In high school, I had a teacher and he was, what was it? Pre-calculus or something. And he would eat pretzels and carrots together. He'd have one carrot and one pretzel. And I would watch him and I was like, man, there's got to be some sort of combination with those two that like is so good. And then, so my friend and I, we started trying it out. And I don't know if you've ever had a pretzel and a carrot, but it is phenomenal. There's like it's such a good combo. Like I have my little baby carrots. I don't know, like for listeners, you can't see, but I'm just showing Liz my bowl. I have baby carrots and some pretzels. It's like the flavor is so freaking good.
Oh my gosh, I have to try this. I've never heard of that.
It's like there's like that saltiness, and it doesn't matter what kind of pretzel. Like that's what I've discovered, but like it's got the saltiness and then you got the freshness of the carrot. So you eat a carrot and then you have a pretzel. It's so good until you choke on it.
Oh my gosh. So I have tried the pretzel and mustard combo. Like, when you get like a fresh baked pretzel and then they have like a mustard dip into it. I tried just like mustard with like, the packaged ones that you get from the store. And like, it was pretty good. I don't know. But I know some people don't like mustard. So that's probably like the last thing that they want to try.
There's actually a really good brand of pretzels and they're mustard flavored. Isn't it called like Sydnor pretzels or something like that? Snyder pretzels. Oh my gosh. They have a mustard flavor. Sorry, I know Sydnor is your last name. Snyder, they have these little like nub thing, like I don't know what it's like, a little shapes. I don't know what they are, like nibs or something, whatever. They have a mustard flavor. That's so freaking good.
Yes. Okay. I think I have had that. That's so funny because people confuse my last name with Snyder all the time. And I think of that company, the pretzel company.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh. So now we went on the tangent of pretzels. My question was, when you start getting busy, and I think one thing I wanted to talk to you about, which you had talked about in your last episode, was, the social networking. And when you first start your own business, you're like, okay, you're trying to build your social network, you're trying to build your clientele, you're trying to build who you know. And so I know that was something you were working on. And so how is that going now? Like, how are your networking skills? Like, what's going on with you and your like marketing and social networking?
I've been thinking about this a lot recently of just how to go about networking. And I also gave a lecture recently to some ASU students, and that was a topic that came up. And because it's such an important part of architecture and the architecture profession, and any business really is like, it starts with people, right? And typically people that you know. And so I think looking at networking for me is more like community building. And so for me, it's personally like a long game for sure. Like even starting in college, grad school, out of school, I always try to meet new people throughout that time. And it's not really with an end goal of like, oh, I'm going to get something from this like immediately. It's more like I want to align myself with dreamers and doers and generous people and supportive people, because when that day comes, when you need that support, like you're going to have that net to pull from already. And so for me, like I've been thinking, professionally and personally, it's kind of mixed all into one. And that's how I approach my clients, people I collaborate with, my friendships, even my life partner. Like I want people around me who are going to support me and kind of start to give space to those who don't. And I think that's really important in this profession, especially because like you can't do this on your own. Like you just can't. And so whether that's through like mentorship, through your peers, through, the more traditional mentorship model, I really rely on the people around me just to get things done. So that's kind of how I've reframed it in my mind as of late.
No, that's so true. And I think, I think I've posted about this way back when. It was like, it takes a village to have a business. Like, even though it's just me, yes, at the end of the day, it takes a village, and it takes the people, and also your, support at home. And like, that's one thing, like in my ebook is like, one of the first things you need to do is like find a support system and understand who your support system is, and, get a mentor or get someone. It's like, yeah, you're not alone. And so finding the right people and building that social network. And I think there's also a fact of like consistency of showing up at meetings, which is something I've been talking about too recently. Is I'm part of a realtor club, and I've been going consistently for the last 2 years, almost every week, except this year have been going a little bit less. But after 2 years, I am getting projects from consistently showing up, and like people know my name, and people come up to me and they're like, "Hey, Katerina." And I'm like, "Hi, do I know you? I've never met you." And they're like, "Well, I know you because you presented." And so it's amazing to see, but it also takes consistency, especially when it's like you're trying to get into a new network or trying to build something, or you want to be part of a club. Like there's a lot of people who show up once or twice and are like, well, that didn't really get me anywhere. Yeah, but there's also consistency. Like it is an investment of your time that is then returned. It may not be immediate, kind of similarly like what you said. Like when you need to pull from that net in the future, you have that, the people know your name and they trust you. And building trust is like the hardest thing to do. So you have to do that with consistently showing up.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of think of networking as like two parts. Like one is kind of the introduction or like meeting new people. And then the second part is like actually maintaining those relationships. And so like you have to actively, check in with people, support others. I express gratitude a lot of time to people who have helped me in some way. And it's like, I think I've also heard before, like, oh, Liz, you're so lucky that you have such a great community around you. But it's like, this is all very intentional.
And it took work. It took work. It's not like you did this overnight.
Yeah, like it's very intentional. You have to actively work at that. Like your network isn't going to appear or just, magically appear one day. And yeah, like I said, once you make those connections, you have to nurture them over a long period of time to really see that return over time.
No, absolutely. And I think one thing too is, which we briefly talked about before we started recording, is, and I kind of told you, like my problem is now is, so now I'm super busy. Do I keep going to these marketing meetings, these realtor meetings, these small business club meetings, when it's like, yeah, I still should be showing up because people may, no, I don't think people will forget me, but like it's that consistency. But then I'm at the point where like, I don't know if I can go to those things because I have work to do. Like I can't go to these luncheons every other day. And like, I mean, they're great, they're fun, but that's not paying the bills. And so it's like finding that balance too of like, okay, do I go to this event? Is this event worth my time? Or do I need to be, back in the office working?
No, I think that struggle is very real. And it's kind of like thinking too of immediately, if you go to this event, it may not be paying the bills, but a couple of years down the line, when that big project does hit, like it will be paying the bills in the future. Yeah. But I completely resonate with that, and trying to find, just the right frequency that works for you of like continually putting in that effort, but also delivering projects. And you can see why, these bigger firms have positions dedicated just for business development, just for marketing, just for project management, and the people, working, getting these projects done. And then when you have a small business and you're all of those things, it can be hard to find that balance.
Definitely. It goes back to like you're wearing all these hats all of a sudden. And it's like, okay, now what do I do? So it's something I'm working on right now. Like I know I have to still show up to these meetings. And I've been on a mini coaching session with the organization I'm a part of, AWA plus D. So usually when I go to the realtor meetings right now, we're having coaching sessions. So I kind of have some scheduling conflicts. But in the end, I'm like, I have to get back out to those, because they are starting to produce income, which is really exciting. And so it's like, okay, keep going so people don't forget, or you never know who you're going to meet. And I think too, like when you go to a networking event, like I kind of try to think like, okay, was that a successful event, or was that kind of like, what should I have done differently? Because sometimes like there's been moments where I'm like, I don't really want to go, but as long as I give my business card to one person, I consider it a success, or I talk to a person. And so that I think is just like, you never know where that's going to lead. And even on those days where I'm like, I don't really want to know if I want to go to this, and then I go and I'm like pleasantly surprised, and I end up having conversations with people or like running into people I know. And it's like, you kind of just got to keep showing up, even though it can be hard sometimes. But I think it's an investment because, in the future, that'll pay the bills.
Yeah. And I think it's also finding the groups that share your same values and just align with what you want to do, what you want to accomplish. And so I try to attend those events where I know the people that are going to be there. Like we already have that thing in common as far as like, I attend AIA events or the National Organization of Minority Architects. And I know the people in those rooms feel similarly that I do. And I think that's a really good head start, is like choosing the right rooms in which to be in.
I think you hit the nail on the head with that, with like the same values as you, because then I think you're going to get the right clients from that clientele. So I think that's really spot on. And then tell us about this book that you're writing. I'm very curious to know about what's going on there.
Yeah, I know. I can't believe that we haven't talked about it before, because it's definitely something I've been working on for a while. And I probably started writing it like 3 years ago, and I had this lofty goal, like I'm going to finish it in a year. But then, life happens. I, moved, started this business. And so that definitely took the back burner for a little bit, but I'm trying to really get that done. But essentially it's a guidebook and part memoir, I'd want to say. So it's titled, originally I titled it Pep Talk, Tips, Advice, and Encouragement for Women Entering the Architecture Field. But I recently changed the working title to Real Talk instead of Pep Talk, because, once I started writing, I realized there's just this writing specifically for women starting their careers. I didn't want to sugarcoat like what that experience is like, and that it can be a difficult kind of route to go. And I think as a profession, we've made a lot of progress for sure, but there's a lot of work to be done as far as elevating women in the profession and leadership, of having that same respect as your male counterparts. So that's something I really was very passionate about and wanted to share my life experience as far as, how I navigated that personally. But then I also feature women from really across the US. I've been interviewing, what their stories are and how that relates. So right now the chapters are set with different like topics. And one of the more popular ones, which I thought was funny, is I titled it Crying in the Workplace.
Oh, yeah.
And really, it's like, okay, it's a catchy title, but it's also just talking about emotions in the workplace. And with women, I think it's actually kind of common. Architecture is such a high pressure job. There are tears, whether you see them or if they're behind the scenes. And it's not really accepted when, on the other hand, when men get really angry or even aggressive, it's like, oh, that's just how they are, or it's accepted more. But if a woman is crying, it's like not okay.
Emotional, yeah, hormonal, yeah, the like negative connotations.
Right, right. So it was really funny. There was this one woman I interviewed who was a contractor. And when I first met her, like she just is so strong, so like just such a badass. And when she responded to that question, I think it was like, have you ever cried in the workplace? And she responded, which time?
Wow.
Yeah. And I think it's a thing that happens, but we don't talk about it really. And just, that's one chapter in the book of that I wanted to highlight, just kind of the reality of what is happening and then how we can really change that and to move things forward to be a more acceptable, inclusive place for women and for all minority architects.
A few things. That was a lot to unpack. I have so many thoughts. At the beginning, when you talked about like sharing kind of like the good, the bad, and the ugly, essentially, of starting your own business, I think that's important because it seems like a lot, like on social media, there's a lot of this, the highlight reels of like, look, I make 5 figures now and da da da, and here's how I got here, my 3 steps. And it's like, there is the reality. And sometimes I'm just like, I want to share too of like why it's so hard to do certain things. And I think it's important that you're sharing the truth of, like, yes, it's amazing. Like you have your own business, you have the freedom of time. Like it's amazing. Your dream is coming true. But there's also a really difficult side to it. And it's kind of a like, are you ready to take this on? I think it's a good idea of someone, not to say like to crush their dreams and be like, it's so hard, you're not going to be able to get through it. It's just like, know that there's the reality of it. And I think it makes other people feel like they're seen and heard, because I'm sure whoever's going to read about your story and they've experienced something similar, it's just like, oh, it's not just me. I think so many people resonate with stories that are very similar to theirs, or be like, oh wow, she went through this, I went through the same thing. And I think that's going to be a way for you to connect or make an impact on so many people's lives.
Thank you. And a big theme throughout the book that kind of unfolded as I was writing was just mental health in general. That's kind of an underlying, theme throughout the book. And so, I know that's just such a big topic and reality of today. And like I heard from someone say that if you're struggling with your mental health today, like that's the correct response. Because I just don't think we were meant to live the life that we live now, as far as the amount of information we're consuming every day, the news that we have immediate access to, just the demands that we now have to adhere to. It's just like, it's too much. And so I kind of wanted to pull back the curtain as far as it's okay if you're struggling, but you can also achieve a lot while that's happening.
I think that's so far true in this Women in Architecture series. Of what's being highlighted is we're these incredible women who have our own businesses. We're in architecture, a really hard field to get into. And like, it is pulling the curtain back and being like, there are struggles. It is hard. We persevere, we get through it. But then also to take a moment to be like, yeah, there are these hard moments. And, that's just part of the journey. And so I think that's really important to share as well. And then I love that you're talking to other women and having little interviews and like getting an idea, especially if it's like a woman contractor. And I think too, it's like, I admire so much the generation that came before us, and then the very small generation of females who came before them. And it's just like the impact of what they have done for us to be able to do what we do is, I'm so grateful for the women who paved the way for us to be able to have our own businesses and to be in architecture.
Yes.
Like, that's huge.
Yeah, it is huge. And I think just one of my personal missions is really to help be part of that story and that growth. And so, like, whatever I can do to help make this a little bit easier for the women who are to follow, or, who are side by side with me, like now, and just, make it that much easier to reach your goals and succeed.
No, absolutely. Like it goes back to it takes a village. And I think that's part of the community. And I think you have beautifully created a community and social network in Phoenix. But then there's also like the bigger picture of like you're creating this community and like the safe space for other women, and especially women who are, minority architects, of like, hey, this is a safe space. I probably, somebody else has been through what you've been through. Unless it's like some completely crazy, unique story, someone to like the day to day has definitely experienced what you've experienced. So I think that'll be a really great place for people to feel like seen and heard, because you'll be sharing their stories as well.
Thank you. And I think really the whole purpose to what we're doing is, I think, just to make connections, right? And I think in order to do that and to make progress, like you have to be vulnerable with what is going on so that other people are connected by it, and then makes their life a little bit easier. And so I think we could all share more. And it's hard because, in corporate America, that's not so welcomed. But now that I'm not in that, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just put this all out there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, why not? Why not? And you don't know who it'll help. It's so funny. And back to the crying at work thing, like you had me thinking about, I know a few times I cried at work, either something personal happened or it was really difficult. But there's this one instance I remembered from the first job I had out of architecture school in Chicago. And I mean, I moved in a CAD drawing the ceiling by like an eighth of an inch, 16th of an inch. And it messed up some other drawings. And so all day I had to hear my two bosses go, well, when Katerina moved the file and da da da, and it was in the same office. And it was just like this continuous of like, well, that's wrong. And I'm like, you guys, it was 1/16 of an inch. Can we relax? Like, is that a difference? Like now I'm just like, and I held my tears that whole day because I was like, you cannot cry. You cannot cry. You are the only woman. I was like, I don't even know what would happen. They'd probably be like, you need to go home or something like, and I'd just be like, you guys are just being mean. Like you're being assholes right now. Like it's literally a 16th of an inch. But like, yeah, it's hard. And like architecture is really hard. And I think there's moments like we have to remember we're all human and we're vulnerable and we have other things going on outside of architecture. Yes, architecture is our job. For some, it's the job and the hobby. For some, it's, just like all encompassing. Not for me. For me, it is my job. And so, yeah, we have other stuff going on besides architecture. And I think corporate America doesn't recognize a lot of that.
Definitely. And really in any profession, it's like, I think we all can start to mesh like our personal and professional versions of ourselves together a bit more, because I think that's just like the reality. Like you said, your career is one part of you. And I think especially sharing your authentic self is so much more just well received by everyone. Like when you're simply you, people are going to be drawn to that than a like polished version of you.
You literally took the words out of my mouth. I was just going to talk about authenticity and like how I love like even the people I follow on social media, like when they show like their true, and I do have to admire the people who film themselves crying into like, I just like when I have a bad moment, like I can't get the phone out and start crying and like, take it for myself. But I still admire those people who are vulnerable and who are authentic and are just like, you know what? Life is really hard right now, or this didn't go the way that I thought it was going to go. So I think the authenticity is great. And I think too, like, and I don't know if this is a topic we want to talk about, but like I've seen AI influencers and like influencers made by AI. And I'm like, well, where's the authenticity with that? And so it's like, would you buy a product from an influencer who looks like a human, acts like a human, talks like a human, is selling you something that they recommend or that they like to use? Or are you following a human who's authentic, who will tell you, who may use brand deals. And I know this could become a whole other episode, but it's like the authenticity, like, because I'm starting to see like we have AI and technology and like, potentially robots coming, like there is that human connection. And it's like that authenticity of like, a robot probably isn't going to cry, when a coworker is mean to them. There's no emotion. And so like you have to have that authenticity.
Yeah. No, it's a scary, scary time right now.
A little bit. Yeah. A little bit.
And I think what's so scary is just how fast things are developing too. And just knowing that like ChatGPT, if it's this smart now, I mean, think about what AI is going to look like in a decade. I mean, and yeah, it's bonkers.
Yeah, it is. And it's, we're asked like, are we going to be replaced by AI? And I know that's been a topic for like architects and stuff. And I don't think in maybe 100 years from now or something, not when you and I are practicing, I feel like I can guarantee that. But it's just like, because people want that connection with humans, and unless AI gets super smart, like really, really smart, it's just you bring the uniqueness that you are the individual. Like AI can only do so much, but you as an individual can bring so much uniqueness to something, to a project, and the human interaction. So anyway, that's a whole, I mean, it doesn't keep me up at night yet, but it definitely is something like you got to think about like what the future looks like and what that means, for our businesses. But, in the meantime, like it's been super helpful for me business wise. Like I can definitely take more on because of the help with AI.
Yeah. And I think speaking to like creativity, I did take a writing class in the spring, and the topic of AI came up. It's all in the universities now. And the instructor, who is a editor, said, if you're using AI for writing for your book, like that's cheating. And what he was saying was that really AI is the antithesis? Antithesis.
Yeah. I'm gonna let you said it right the one time.
Yeah.
You got it.
But that's essentially just the opposite of creativity, right? And I think there is research done where there's all these different AI platforms, and if you gave it the same prompt, it eventually would spit out the same answer every time. And it's like it kills creativity. And so although it may be more efficient in that moment, to solve certain problems in design, you're not going to get creative solutions from that, because that's the human part of it. So yeah, it's a dilemma though, because I don't think it's going anywhere.
No, it's not. It's not going anywhere. So very true. Well, to pivot back to your business, just to see, so we've kind of heard about what you have been doing the last year since you've been on the podcast. So what does the next year look like for Sydnor Design?
Next year, the first year, I really focused on graphic design, branding, website design, and I took a step away from architecture for a little bit, but I really missed it. I, realized how much I absolutely love architecture. I really missed the problem solving in that design discipline. And so this next year really is, I want it to be more architecture focused. And so, right now, probably my projects are more like 70% digital media and 30% architecture, interior design. But I think my next goal is to kind of flip that to where I'm doing less of that and more architecture. So I think it is hard because my first year of business, I kind of marketed myself focusing on digital design. But now I kind of have to reframe my messaging and marketing to show that like, okay, now we're focusing on this, and hopefully we'll continue to focus on that.
Oh, well, I'm excited for you. I'm excited. And I love to, I think we talked about it probably, I think the last episode was diversifying your income and like being able to have multiple streams in different sectors. And I think it's great that you have these different options that you can also kind of flow in between. Like now you're going back towards architecture, and like you have the ability to flow between these similar disciplines, but a little bit different in their own ways, that I feel like you're never going to get bored, because there's always like, you're going to be like, oh, well, let's do some of this. And I think it's smart from like a business standpoint, where it's not, I wouldn't say like, what is it called? Like economy safe, or like, I don't know, whatever. It's like there's like a term like economy safe or something. So like, even if the economy tanks, your business is still like, you've picked areas where regardless of kind of what it seems like is happening, you've kind of got this good buffer, which I think is a really smart business strategy for you to do as well.
Thanks. Yeah, it's funny because you hear just different, I guess, pieces of advice. Like one camp says, oh, you need to niche down more and more so that you become an expert in that one thing. And others are saying, no, that's good because you can diversify and offer different services. So if one isn't sticking so much, you can pivot to another. But I think for me personally, I need to be doing all those different things so that I can really hone in on like the creative side, and I can offer better solutions when I'm working on graphic design and architecture than like just one or the other, And I think at the base of it, architecture informs all of those things.
It really does. It really does. Well, Liz, this has been such a pleasure having you back on. The last 45 minutes or whatever have flown by. I really enjoyed catching up with you. Yeah, I've really enjoyed catching up with you. I know we've been talking. It feels like I've been talking with you so much since we were working on the website together, but it's been so great to catch up with you, see how you're doing. And really, you had some incredible advice for anybody who's listening and is, in the early stages of thinking about, being in architecture or having their own business. I think you gave some really incredible advice.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I love doing this and chatting with you because I think, it's just so important to kind of have that check in and see how each other are doing. So I really appreciate you having me back.
Yeah, of course. And where can listeners find you?
Listeners can find me on my Instagrams, which is Sydnor Design, or my website, which is sydnor-design.com.
Perfect. I'll provide links in the show notes. Liz, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of From the Honeycomb podcast. If you enjoyed it, please take a moment to rate, review, and share it with your friends. To stay connected, follow me on Instagram at From the Honeycomb podcast, and you can support the podcast through the Patreon link in the show notes. And don't forget to subscribe to my monthly newsletter where I share exclusive behind-the-scene content and tips on running a mindful and successful architecture business. Thank you again for listening, and stay curious.